So, what? This is what video games get wrong with shotguns quite often. Here we have this new shotgun thing, the Olympia, whatever. Um, and it's interesting because, well, we do base damage of 50, right? But then you shorten the barrel up, and you do 2 times that amount of damage. The only thing accurate with this entire statement here, or this um, data, is this: that the range goes significantly down when you shorten the barrel up. That part is 100% true. You do lose quite a bit of range, quite a bit of foot-pounds of energy. Your spread goes way, way, way wider. You don't have quite as much, energy, so you can't shoot further downrange. So that part's accurate. However, what I'm about to show you is the problem. So this really grinds my gears, as Peter Griffin would say. Okay, that's a pretty gnarly shot spread, right? But here's the thing. I just don't understand. Wait a minute. How is that going to be any different than this? I mean, well, that was the same. But how is that going to be tighter than that? That spread, which is, I don't know, I'd say that's like a normal full body target. So you probably have maybe 1 in the A zone. 2 of them aren't going to be hitting. 1 of them's going to be like in the arm, maybe, and the other one's going to be in like way low. But then you magically, this is magic here, video game magic. Wow, that's a lot tighter of a group, or of a spread. It's not a group, it's a spread. That is what shotguns do, is they spread, they don't group. You can group multiple shotgun shots, but you're not going to group as in, like, unless you're shooting slugs. But the spread of a shotgun is determined by 1, barrel length, choke or no choke, type of projectile or type of shot used, and gauge, basically, and also the wind, temperature, that sort of a thing. But in real life, your shotgun would have about that much spread, whether or not you're using it like this, which in real life, that doesn't do that. It doesn't go from that messy of a spread, from that wide, to this, just because you aimed down the sights with the buttstock against your shoulder. That does not happen. That is a physical impossibility. That your shot spread is going to change from hip firing it like this to aiming like that. You're not going to get a tighter pattern. And if you are, you're 1, using a different type of ammunition, 2, inserted a different type of choke, or 3, using a different type of shotgun, or different shotgun, or it's just not going to happen. Or, because in real life, yes, SMGs do this whole thing, like where they raise up like that. Okay. That would be pretty accurate if you're not controlling it. That's more than likely accurate. I've never shot a full auto. But from what I understand and what I've been told is, yeah, they do this. My grandpa said that back when he was in basic training, and this was, World War II. When he went into basic training, they handed him a Thompson submachine gun, which is a Thompson 45. Thompson submachine gun, which was a 45 ACP, and a stick magazine. They also made drum mags, but they were in the Air Force or whatever. The military was issued stick magazines, which I believe had 30 or 45 rounds. But this is what he explained to me as it did, is just like that. He said, boy, man, the first time I shot that thing, he said he'd pulled the trigger for about 2-3 seconds, like that, half the mag would dump. And it would just start, muzzle rising like crazy, and he was already off the target by the time. He says, you had to sit there and feather the trigger. Like, you'd take 2-3 shots like that, and you'd have to stop and then bring the muzzle back down. And those things had a foregrip underneath the barrel for stability, and they still were rising just like this, as he described. But and that's coming from somebody that was 18, 19 years old, fit, and also probably fairly strong, and like also a different generation. Like, people back then that were born when he was born were just a hell of a lot tougher. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. They're the last greatest generation, which is the generation that essentially fought in World War II, that upbringing era where they had kids and their kids were baby boomers. They kind of put, the rest of us to shame when it comes to most things. Then again, there's a lot of differences between the way the world worked then and the way the world works now. And I'm not talking politic-wise, I'm just talking in general. Like, it was a lot different. Men were men, women were women. That was that. We made fun of our enemies rather than not. Because, we weren't, well, pansies back then, apparently. And it was okay to make fun of your enemy when you were literally at war with them. Like the old Disney cartoons with Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and Pluto, and Pluto was Goofy's dog, I think. But the old school cartoons like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, even though Donald Duck, I don't think is Disney. He might be. I don't remember. Whatever. The old school cartoons, they used to literally make fun of the Germans and the French and the Italians or whoever, like whoever we were at war with. And yeah, at one point I do believe we did fight the French, but I was thinking of the Italians, because during World War II, I believe the Italians sided with Germany at some point. Whatever, this isn't a history lesson. Correct me if I'm wrong. Not like anybody watches this shit anyways. But yeah, shotguns don't do that. Okay? In real life, you're going to get the same shot pattern, whether you're aiming down the sights or whether you're hip firing it. The only thing that's going to change is not that. It's going to depend on whether you hit your target or not, or whether you miss the broadside of a barn, because also a shotgun should not be spreading that far from this distance. Like, that's less than 10 meters, which is less than 10 yards, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I don't know. I use yards. I use feet. And it's about 3.5 feet per yard, which you know, that equates to 10 yards being about 33 something feet. Just to make it simply, 30 feet is about 10 yards relative, give or take. More like give or take. No, give a couple feet. But yeah, um, a shotgun with the barrel that's like, or that size, not gonna have that much spread in it. And besides that, it looks like he's using birdshot with high brass. I don't know. I mean, to me, if I, I was gonna go to war, you would want a buckshot, if not slugs. More than likely, you'd be carrying buckshot for your normal loads, even though shotguns aren't really used in active operations anymore for anti-personnel reasons. They're used for breaching and other things like crowd control or whatever. And I'm talking non-lethal crowd control. Um, but military operations don't really do crowd control. They just do control. I mean, whatever. But yeah, there's not going to be a spread difference if it's the same shot, the same gun, the same. It's super annoying when they do that, and it's physically impossible for that to do that. The only way it's going to do that is if you're using a different type of shell from a different manufacturer, or you have one of the barrels with a certain type of choke in it and the other barrel with no choke, or a different style choke or different size choke, or cylinder bore. That you could do that with an over and under or any shotgun. If you take out the choke or put in a choke or whatever. Some of the coolest ones to do, and I don't really know how they do it, but is a poly choke, or that's what I was told it was, which is basically a choke to it's like having a choke tube, but it's also like having multiple choke tubes, because what it does is it essentially is something that goes onto the end of the barrel and it is permanently affixed onto it, and you basically can change the choke on the end of the gun, just by turning the choke thingy on it. And I don't know too much about those. I just thought that was pretty neat that I didn't know that they could do that, but apparently they can. I don't super old school, I guess, because I haven't seen too many modern things with that. Yeah, so they just basically, you can turn it from cylinder bore to basically your tightest modified choke that you can get, or the tightest choke. And so depending on what you're shooting, like if you're shooting slugs or if you're shooting birdshot or buckshot or anything in between, you know you can adjust your choke on the fly without actually having to take the choke tube out and thread it in, re-thread it, or re-screw it in there inside the barrel. And you can. It's just super easy. But yeah, it's video games screw this up all the time, and it pisses me off. I don't know about you. See ya.